All episodes of the Real Women in Business podcast reflect the opinions and views of the guest and Cass McCrory and do not reflect official policy or position of employers or clients. Thank you.
You're listening to the Real Women in Business podcast. I'm your host, Cass McCrory, and in this podcast, we highlight women in all kinds of businesses. For yourself, someone else, full-time, part-time, overtime hustle, together we will learn from and with one another. And if we get it right, it'll lift us all. Let's get into it.
Friends, today we are talking to Michelle Roberts. Michelle is a local Rochesterian along with me. And in this conversation, we go deep into purpose and what do you want to be known for. She asked this really great question about personality traits of your business. As a solo entrepreneur, I think that's going to be a game changer for some of us. And then she really dives into this idea of how we're investing time in ourselves and what that looks like and how it brings greater joy, not just in our lives, but in our work too. I am so excited to share this one with you. Let's go to the show. Hey, Michelle, welcome to the podcast.
So thank you so much for having me.
I've been in your realm. We've shared space in the Rochester marketing dynamic for a long time, but we've never actually met before today.
Yeah, so I'm pretty excited, and we do some of similar things. So
we do.
We're integrated.
No, yeah. Tell me a little bit about who you are and what you get to do these days.
Yeah, so I actually get to work with organizations that are evolving. So I help them ignite purpose at their core so they can win the hearts of their employees and customers, which in the end helps boost morale, helps increase their marketing efforts, and helps the CEO really step more into their vision and help that vision align with their entire team and purpose of why they do what they do.
I love that. How did you get, that is it's beautiful, number one, because when you are purpose and intention led, great results follow and you can bring your team on board with you. How did you get into this work?
I think that, background for me is that I worked in the agency world. I worked as an art director for about 9 years. And I always felt like I was kind of not living my full potential. I was kind of said, well, here, you're a designer. You're only a designer. And so for me, I was like, there's so much more that I could do. And I think that the other side to that is I really had some really poor management. So I had some bosses that just really didn't understand just how to treat people and try to how to create a great culture that creates innovation, that creates vulnerability. And so for me, I learned very quickly on, I kind of had a quarter life crisis in my later 20s. And I said, I think that I can do this myself and I can do this better. And I got to I think those 9 years, I got to play with a lot of different things. I got to be a product designer, an art director, a graphic designer, a branding specialist. So at that point, I said, I think that it's time for me to do this how I'd like to do it.
What do you think gave you the confidence to say, yeah, I can do that and I want to?
It was a chain of events because for me at that time, I had not only been dissatisfied with my business and my personal and professional life. And I really wasn't getting what I wanted out of myself, out of the people that I was with, my personal life. I was like, this is just not working. I felt very like I was a victim to the world, like I had no power. And so really when I started, I kind of had to look at everything like that. So when I did that, I realized I wasn't really living those values or those ideals that I thought I was. And I really had to take a step back and look at what do I want to be known for? Mm-hmm. How do I want to communicate? And what are my behaviors that I need to align with so that I actually am happy and I can attract those things that I want in my life and I'm not just talking about. And so from there, I had some really great people in my life that that really inspired me. They kind of said things to me that really hit my heart in a way that I was like, wow, I need to change. And so for me, that business was never just a business to make money. For me, it was always about purpose. It was always about, how do I become that person that I've always wanted to become? And I can do this in a way that not only helps me live it, but I can help other people live their purpose.
I love that. Do you feel like you asked some really great questions about what do I want to be known for and how do I want to live and where are my values? I know for me personally, I had a similar existential crisis and I turned to Jess Lively. She had a course called Values-Based Intentions, I think it was, or Life with Intention Online. We'll link it in the show notes because I think it's available now, evergreen. I found that to be a great resource. Did you have a resource that you looked to, or was it just circle of friends?
Friends, coach. I hired a coach. So when I started my business, I am originally not from here. So when I started, I knew 5 people, and it was okay. I'm going to start this. What do I need? Who do I need in my place? And so I hired a coach, invested half of my bank account into this coach. And my mom was like, "You're crazy. Why don't you just move back home?" I turned down a job offer back home at the time. And so
where's home?
Utica, New York.
Okay. Nice.
Actually north of Utica, small town.
What's it called?
Barneveld.
Okay. You know what? We're going to find out how small the world is because somebody is going to put in the comments on your episode, my grandmother is from that place.
I've met a lot of people out here in Rochester that are from there or that know people there.
Nice. All right. So you invested heavily in a coach.
Yes.
You said no to opportunities that, in parentheses or quotes, should entice you.
Yes.
How did you find your coach?
The company that I was working for as a freelancer, I saw that they were working with a coach, and I saw how much growth they experienced. And I said, I'd love an introduction, see if we're a good fit. And, I knew that I knew what I wanted to do. I think that's a really important point to make because some people want to start businesses, but they just don't know what they want to do. And I think that the experiences that I had in those 9 years really led me to say, this is what I want to do. I just need to find somebody that's going to help me sell myself and to be able to help me package things. Because, when it comes down to it, if you're not selling what you want to, if you're not selling a product or service, then you're not in business. And so I was like, that's kind of what I need to do.
Mm-hmm. I'm such a fan when women are transparent about the help that they get in getting to where they are, because I think so many people are like, I don't know how she did that. And it's like, well, she invested in herself.
Yes.
She got a coach. She said and committed to what she wanted thoughtfully. And then she did it.
Yeah.
That's what you just demonstrated for us. That's really powerful, Michelle.
And that's hard. That was so hard for me to do. That was not easy. I also had to invest in time in myself to change my attitude, change my feelings around myself and my value, which is not an easy thing to do because it's retraining your mind. So I listened to people like Will Smith, who I still listen to because he's amazing, the actor. He said some really amazing things in his videos and really sunk in, and like Les Brown. So people like that helped me shift my mindset along with my coach. But it was a lot of work. It was hard. And I will say it's always hard. Like this doesn't stop. Like it doesn't with a brand, with their personal development, it never ends. You can't not be making it, working on it.
I completely agree. And I love that you mention it because I think that for many entrepreneurs and people in business, honestly, they have this destination in mind. Like, oh, once I get to this point, everything's going to work out and be dreamy or whatever. And that's not the reality. I had a really big epiphany this year where I realized that I really love to be surprised and delighted.
Cool.
And the thing that is like, that's not such a revelation, right? Like, who doesn't like a good surprise? Who doesn't want to be delighted by their life? But I was operating in such deep conflict with that core desire because I was always trying to plan things and control things and know what was happening. And so I was leaving no room for surprise and delight.
Oh, gosh. And I should tell you about how my husband proposed to me. It didn't happen because of that at first.
But like, that's the thing. It's like you don't really get it until you do that hard work, and it doesn't stop.
Yeah. Yeah. Just because I'm a brand expert doesn't mean that I'm not always working on my brand, and I'm not always perfect at it either. I mean, no one is.
Yeah. I think as an agency, one of the things that I tell people is, you're only as good as your last investment in yourself. And if you are the cobbler that has poor shoes, or you're the hairdresser with 6-inch roots, like, you need to invest in yourself.
I love it.
I'd love to know about the people that you're working with today. And because you mentioned this idea of how they harness their purpose and how that really creates so much energy for their employees and their customers.
Yeah.
How can somebody know I need to ignite my purpose? How do they know it's not working the way they're doing it?
So there's a couple of things that present themselves. One is that their culture is not aligned. There's a gap between who they think they are and who they want to be.
And something that would like show that as a symptom would be like churn, a lot of turnover.
Yeah. Churn rate high, dissatisfaction, because the culture, if it's not well, then it will spill over to customers and patients, employees, so it spills over into that arena. Yeah. There's also a huge need now for organizations to be very employable. So they want to have something that attracts talent to the workplace, especially millennials.
Yeah.
They're going after organizations that that they have a shared value with, that they stand for something. So which leads me to, they may not be standing out enough. So their competitors might be surpassing them. So that would be a need to say, let's look at your brand. Let's look at your positioning.
Yeah. You mentioned something interesting there about millennials, and, this podcast is for women in business, right? And there's going to be some 65-year-old second life transitions listeners. We're going to have some, 13-year-olds that are like, how do I know what I can do when I grow up? You're going to have some nearly 40-year-olds that are also like, what do I do when I grow up? How do you suggest a business that doesn't really know what their purpose is? Like, what's the first question to start asking yourself as a business owner and a participant in a business?
Yes. So I reference Simon Sinek's book, Start With Why. So that's really looking at your values, looking at your personality style, and whether it's a CEO in a team or if it's an entrepreneur that I work with, it's always, if you would describe your personality, if your business was a person, what type of personality traits would you express or have? And so that's the first step, looking at why you do what you do, what are your passions, and really look deep into that, because it's not about the features and functions and attributes that you give people. There's also a emotional benefit. There's an emotional piece to what you do, and that's really where everything else should come from. So, for example, I work with a periodontist who is similar to a dentist, but they focus on periodontal disease. For her, it is a leader, the owner. It's not just about getting the right implants and having a great smile. It's about restoring the person as a whole. It's about restoring wellness so that they're free to live a healthy, happy life. So really pulling it from, hey, it's not just about teeth, it's about you and your life and being healthy and wellness. So everything has to come from this idea of the wellness rather than the teeth and implants.
Yeah. And it makes the work more meaningful.
Hugely. Yeah.
What do you see as your purpose? Like, what is your business's purpose outside of helping other people find their purpose?
My personal brand mantra is, I believe when you realize your potential, you can do anything. So for me, being in that work world, I knew that there was something missing, but I didn't know how to live it. I didn't know what that was. And so when I realized my potential, my value, that's when I realized I can do anything. And things have evolved too for me. It's not just the same process and products and services I sell. It's evolved with my willingness to look into my potential and grow that.
Yeah. Where do you want this to go next?
I definitely I'm not positioned as an agency. I'm more as the, outsourced chief marketing officer, brand manager, developer. So for me, as long as I'm helping people reach and live their full potential through brand and marketing, that's all I really, really want. I don't want to be an agency. I want to focus on finding those ideal clients, those purpose-driven, those business leaders that believe that what they're doing actually influences and creates and lifts our humanity up. That's who I want to continue to work with. So, for me, it's a tough question to say exactly what, but I still want to stay a consultancy and just keep helping those CEOs.
I have a tricky question. Have you ever been in a situation where you don't like the client? And how did you handle that?
So here's how I see that potentially could go. Because, when I go into work with companies and leaders, I get to know them extremely well. And it's not a one and done kind of thing. It's I am building this, your dream with you. And so within the first couple months, I expect sometimes it to be pretty rocky because we're working things out. And it's then after that, do I start to really look at, is this going to work long term? Are we going to have that shared value system in place? That makes it more than just the work together, but we're together. Us together are actually impacting the world together. That's where it says, my gut says, and my whole body says, okay, yes, this is a great fit. Some people might have that intention. So a month ago, this did happen. And I had to just say, I just don't think that you're in a good place right now for us to be working together. And that was the truth. So I referred her to someone else. And unfortunately, she has a brand pillars all created. She has a marketing plan. Someone could come in and just implement that plan. But, unfortunately, sometimes it's not a good fit.
I think it's important to talk about that because not everything is a good fit. And I've had that experience too with clients and be like, you know what? There comes a point where you're like, this isn't working.
Yeah.
And I think especially as women, we have this propensity to just try to make it work, make ourselves different, adapt, lower expectations, be more flexible, be smaller than you are, do this, do that, all so that we can accommodate how somebody else needs to exist in the world.
Right.
And I think there's great personal power in being like, nope, this doesn't work for me.
Yeah. And it was one of the harder conversations I've ever had, actually. It was literally a couple months ago. And she just kind of started to fall apart on the phone. And I'm like, please respect, I need some time to think about this, because it's not a great situation to be in, but, it's not a good fit. Somebody else could be a better fit and implement and do what she needs to be done, not me.
Yeah. I think that takes, in order to step into your fullness and say, not this, to another human being, You have to be really clear on your own values.
Yes.
And that gets back into that piece of, am I investing time in myself to know what matters to me?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I have enough stress in my life.
Right?
I don't need more stress.
Yeah. So I'd love to know, so you were an art director, you had a lot of agency experience for a long time. Did you always want to do this type of work? Like, were you always creative in school? Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Since I was a child, I was drawing or I was painting. I had this huge passion for designing Barbie doll houses out of shelving in my bedroom. So it's been weekends listening to my 90s pop music.
I love it.
And just designing, cutting out things out of magazines and making things out of cardboard and beds and chairs. I've always been creative.
That's so interesting. I think that it's so good to look at where we expressed ourselves creatively as kids as a place to root and get back to, how do I show up for myself? Like, even as a kid, I was such a little dork. I was such a little business person. I would take the leftover, like cardboard boxes, and I would cut them so that there was a desk. And then I would staple papers on the desk.
Yeah.
Of my important work.
That's awesome.
And it's like, okay, yeah. So I've basically grown up into the 7-year-old goal of mine. But,
Yeah. Yeah. I
think it's a great place to go back to be like,
yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
how did I play? Because I think a lot of people forget how to play.
Yeah, absolutely. That's been one of my challenges as an entrepreneur, for sure. That's, it's all about the business. Although in the last, it's been 6.5 years now. So I think the first couple of years was more all about the business, no play. But I think I just redid my bedroom. So remodeled it. My husband said, you only get one room a year and you made this one count.
Nice.
So, an expression, it's a creative expression of myself, a lot of it. So it's, like you said, finding those ways to what I did as a child that now I do in my own house, and it brings me a lot of joy, a lot of relaxation. So
awesome. When you think about the person that most needs you to step in to help with the purpose, who are they? What do they need right now? How are they feeling lack?
Clarity, consistency. They have all these ideas. They don't have someone to help move those ideas forward.
Yeah.
In a way that is consistent with who they want to be, who they want to represent, and then who they want to help.
That is such a succinct way to think about so much. So ideas without being able to move forward, without getting the clarity of those ideas, and then without the knowledge of how to get it off the ground.
And being consistent.
The consistency.
Yeah.
You mentioned that a couple of times. Tell me more about how you see consistency is a factor.
So consistency by trade, it builds trust and credibility. So if you think about any person that we meet, if we see them one place and they are now being a little extreme here, but say they're wearing their gym clothes, then you see them at a networking event and they're wearing a full dress. There's an inconsistency there. So you're kind of like, well, who are they? Who are these people? Who is this person? And that sometimes it can lead to distrust. And are they really walking the walk and talking the talk? Like, are these people saying who they are? So giving that example, you can look at a company and say, well, I called the phone last week and this person said that their company name was X. But I called the second time, to say it's a totally different name. So there's an inconsistency there. So that's what I mean by consistency, meaning you have this one big idea, you want to call it the brand, and you flood that one big idea through your communication, through your marketing, through your office space, through the experience that you provide, and you're using the same keywords, the same concept to do all of that. so that it rings consistent and it creates an experience that you'll be known for. That it's not just, I'm a huge planner as well. So like, I can't do like flying by the seat of your pants kind of thing. Like, oh, let's create an experience for fun. Well, okay, but why? That experience needs to reinforce this idea that you have about company and what you stand for. If you're fun, be fun. If you're compassionate, be compassionate. If you are creating a relaxing environment, don't have pop music playing when you walk in the office, or a TV of, if the TV's on, you don't have, MTV playing or something that's not spa-like. So it's kind of looking at it very holistically, very integrative.
Yeah. If somebody is working within an organization, do you feel like they have some abilities to instill purpose, even if they're not the owner?
Hugely, yes.
Tell me how you see that happening.
Yeah. So one example I love, it was like one of my favorite brands I ever created. And when I say brands, I do mean the brand strategy. So I just want to clarify that. It's defining that one idea, and then the brand personality and the brand essence of why the company exists. So when we did that, I was looking for this essence of the company. What that is the action that your company takes to fulfill its purpose. And I interviewed 4 out of the 5 people, and they all were kind of saying different things. And the leader was very lofty in his response. So I'm looking for more concrete answers here. So one of the employees that has been there for quite a long time actually said word for word what the essence was. Now, it aligned directly with what everyone else was saying, but he said it in a way that was very clear because he knew the purpose. He knew how to communicate that. So I think, everyone plays a part and everyone has a different interpretation of what the purpose is. And by getting to the essence of what that is, it's so great and so important to have all of the team contribute to this idea of what is the brand? Who are we?
Yeah. Thinking back, would you do anything differently in building your own brand?
I would say that one of the bigger things that's held me back is the idea of perfection and to be able to plan out. And I think that even on the days that I don't plan as much, I still do a good job. So I think that for me personally, holding myself back that maybe have happened over the years. I'm much better at it now.
Nice. If you were to give advice to a woman that was just starting out, what would you say?
Be clear on what you want to be known for. Look inside, look at those values, because you could keep chasing, what you think people want or what you should be. I sat down with someone recently and they are starting a business, and, she kept asking me questions about, well, how will my target audience feel about this? And I said, that can't be your sole purpose to doing this. It has to be, you have to reflect your inside brand first. And it has to align, of course it has to align with the right people, but it's more about getting that clarity. So really invest in yourself, like you said earlier. It's so true. You have to do it. And being very clear on who you are, what you stand for, and then how do you want to be known?
I feel like this rings a very authenticity note.
Yes.
What if you don't know?
If you don't know, you have to call me. No. I think I know everyone has the purpose. If they don't know what it is, it's more or less that they know what it is, I believe. It's just how do they articulate? How do they say it? There is a discovering of behind it. There's an uncovering of why do I do what I do? Okay, well then why? And can you ground that back into a certain experience in your life? I think I'm a very introspective person. So for me, that's a little bit easier than maybe others. But I think in that emotional intelligence as well, I think having, growing personally will then help your business as well. So If you don't know, you can find out, I swear.
I think that's really reassuring for people, because it isn't a one and done. Like, there is an evolution to it.
Mm-hmm.
Although there is an essence as well. Like, there's a distillation.
Yes.
This is what I'm here to do.
Mm.
And then there's the variance of ways that you embody that throughout your life in different seasons.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially when you think of being employable. So taking that brand and leveraging it throughout all of your workplace environments. So if you leave a job from here or there, your brand's intact. You might still stand for the same thing, but it will transform as you get different jobs. But you're essentially doing that one thing.
Yeah. Do you think that for solopreneurs, people that are their brand and their brand is them,
it's me.
Yeah, right? Like, do you think that there's a difference between the personal and the professional? Or do you feel like that purpose distills the 9 to 5 and infuses everything in their life?
Mm-hmm. That comes with having to understand your positioning in the market. Do you want that do you want your personal brand to show, and how much? It really comes down to a strategy behind that. And if that makes sense, long-term, short-term. I think that for me, I leverage both, but I also want to have the ability to grow as a consultancy if I would like to. So in that case, it's Novus. But for me, people buy me. I walk in, I present the proposals, and it's me. And I make sure to talk about both my personal brand as well. So making sure that this is what I stand for. These are my values. And I ask them what theirs are too.
Yeah. What tactical things are you doing to make sure that you're living the life that you want to live?
Gosh, that's a great question. I don't think anyone's ever asked me that. I plan, like I said earlier, I plan. I look at things that I want to do now versus later. I try to, so tactically, yes, I like to plan. Meaning life.
Let's get into the meat. Plan daily, yes. Weekly, monthly, 5 years. Tell me about this.
Yeah. So for me, vision, long-term, I have ideas, right? So that may be like we might sell our house in 3 years. I've already started thinking about what I want to do and how I'm going to actually make that happen in the less stressful way as possible. So that's how I take an approach. I say, it could be like this and it could be really stressful, or I can start planning and doing those things now so that when it comes time, I can create the best possible outcome. And I do that with my clients too, like their marketing. Yeah. So, it's just how I work. It's how my brain works. And so tactics in that sense. My husband is a big strategy person too. So we do a life strategy session. Just like super nerd out.
I love that so much. My husband will not entertain such things with me. And it's very sad. Like I start to get giddy asking him these big questions. Wow, what do you think we'll want to do in 15 years?
Yes.
Like, oh my God, what are we having for dinner tonight? Like,
yep.
That must be really nice. All right. So you've got your long-term vision and you're starting to kind of cultivate ideas in that space.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And short-term, I use, so I have a platform called Honeybook where I calculate, where I'm at with my business. I'm in QuickBooks like almost every other day.
Nice.
So there are things that I do daily as well as
awesome
in a vision. I definitely know long term too. Like I've talked about it with my husband, like where we want to be, what we want to be doing. But I also think that, that far out, you just don't know how you're going to be different. So you might not want those things.
Yeah. I love I did a course with this woman, Andrea Shear, and she still does it. It's called Mondo Biondo. And I did this like 12 years ago. And she has you write 100 dreams for your life. That's one of the exercises. And it's a beautiful exercise. And the thing that I really loved about it was it wasn't to schedule it being done. It was just to hold space for it to happen.
Yes.
And because you just don't know.
Yeah. That's great. I love that.
Yeah, I think there's just so much. I think part of having, because I have 4 kids,
oh my gosh,
you recognize just how little control you have over anything. Because it could all, like I could literally get an emergency tap on my office door letting me know that Leora has an ear infection. And you know what happens? Everything blows up into little tiny pieces. And the only thing that matters is this one thing. So I think parenting has given me this really beautiful note of you can plan and it may go exactly as you want it to, or it might not. And that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
But it's tricky.
Yeah. I will look forward to that maybe someday.
Yes, right. Yeah, please do. It's a very good time. I highly suggest it.
Really
I always
the
tell
end of my control issues, just like
right, yeah. Oh no, it'll be the end of it because there's nothing you can do. There's this hilarious time. I was Lexi, I think, was like 7 months old. She was little. It was spring. We went to Central Park. I was wearing her in one of those things, like the complicated Mobius things that everybody makes look really easy once they do it a dozen times. And I thought I really had my stuff together. And then she had a blowout so significant that I also needed a complete change of everything. And the only thing that I could think to do was to go into the Central Park boat shop
and buy
a Central Park boat sweatshirt and sweatpants to change into. And it was in that moment that I really recognized that no matter how prepared I was for anything, I was going to need to be nimble enough to just do what needed to be done.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Wow. 4 kids. That's wow.
It's a serious volume of people.
And commitment to like there's 4. I would love to have just one. I'm fine with one.
One is delightful. 4 is also, they're very, they have their own little ecosystem.
Yeah.
With one another. And it's really so joyful to watch them do life with one another and get to play a small part in that, or a big part, but
It's so neat. Yeah, absolutely. Awesome. Yeah.
What do you love doing these days?
Swimming.
Ooh. Open water, swimming pool? Tell me.
Swimming pool. I do about, on a good day, I'll do 50 laps.
Wow.
And then at least I'll do 30 a day. So it just depends on the day, but I try to do that every day.
Do you jump in a fun way, or do you jump in like you're a swimmer, so you jump in like a swimmer?
I actually was never a swimmer. So when I was younger, I took lessons, and I always liked it. Like my mom, remember saying, seeing me really love it. But I wasn't until last October, me and my husband joined a gym after our wedding, which really I wish I'd done it before our wedding. But I've been going there, and I've kind of just retaught myself a lot of the swimming. So it's been awesome. It's a huge stress reliever, and that whole control and the anxiety that I get. It's stressful having your own business. It's one way that I'm able to manage that extremely well.
I love that. I think we don't talk about how the self-care and the body care, because the body care is self-care,
mm-hmm.
how it really does contribute to joy and feelings of ease, because it mitigates so much else.
Yeah, absolutely. For a long time, I didn't do that, especially with my business. I would say that that's a huge component that I missed. That if we do want to go back to that question, I would say take care of yourself first.
Mm.
For the first couple of years, I didn't. Like, I just was so focused and it just ran my body ragged. Like, I just did meeting after meeting after meeting. And, I don't regret it because it got me here. But the other side to that was it wasn't a good thing on my body.
I read something somewhere, and I'm not going to be able to attribute it in the moment. So hopefully I'll be able to remember where it was from for the show notes. But they said something like, if it doesn't feel good in the journey, it won't feel good in the destination.
I love that.
It was so powerful for me because I think as an entrepreneur, you're really conditioned to do the hard work. And you know that it's going to be hard. But you assume that there's going to be this great payoff. And maybe that's not true.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you need to listen to your body before anything.
Yeah.
It took me a long time too to realize, like, what I ask my body, like, what do you need?
What do you hear back?
Whatever I need, whether it's take a swim, don't take a swim tonight. It's okay to relax because, like I said, the first couple of years it was just very go go go. I think it was maybe 3 years ago I started asking my body that.
You know what I've never heard? Prosecco. Anytime I've ever asked my body what it needs, I've never heard it say Prosecco. And and I only mention that because, like, most of the time when I check in with my body, I'll hear the same things. Like, go outside, take off your shoes, have a glass of water. My body's never been like, Prosecco, brownies, have some dairy. Like, never.
I've had ice cream before, like, just eat ice cream. But
yes, but, like, our bodies may process that differently, Michelle. Like, my body is, like, very firm. Like, what are you doing? Meanwhile, my husband is like, every good experience in his life has included cheese. Everything. So,
of course.
Oh, goodness. All right. So we've got a lightning round of questions that I go through with everybody.
Okay. All right.
What is your go-to jam to up your energy these days?
Imagine Dragons.
Oh, they're so good. They're so good. What time do you wake up?
About between 8. No, it's okay. Summertime, I wake up earlier, around 7:30. Wintertime, it's more like 8:30.
Nice. What's breakfast look like?
Changes because I get bored of food.
Ah, nice. Do you have a favorite ritual?
Baths with salts.
Ooh, with salt. Essential oil salts or?
All kinds. Whatever smells good.
Coffee or tea?
Tea.
Morning person or night owl?
Morning person now. I used to be night owl.
What is a book that you recommend the most?
Business, Start with Why, or Chief Joy Officer. Personal, The Power of Now.
The Power of Now, Eckhart really brings it. What can someone do to make you feel appreciated?
I'm a words of affirmation girl, so I have the 5 love languages.
Nice. Nice. How can people follow you online and maybe even work with you?
So they can give me a call or email me, Michelle, 2 L's, at novusbeknown.com. And you can connect with me on LinkedIn. And I also have a Facebook page.
Awesome. Michelle, thank you so much. This has been awesome. I'm so glad that we had this chance to get to know each other, and we're going to have to do this again.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Awesome.